When people hear the word wasp, they usually picture one thing: a black and yellow insect buzzing near food and ready to sting. That image is familiar, but it is only a tiny piece of the full picture. In biology, a wasp is not defined by attitude, color pattern, or nest shape. It is a broad category inside the order Hymenoptera, the same order that includes bees and ants. And this is where the first major surprise appears: wasps are not one tidy, complete family tree branch that sits apart from bees and ants. Instead, bees and ants evolved from wasp-like ancestors, meaning the line between wasp and not wasp is evolutionary history, not just appearance. So in this explainer, we are not asking whether wasps are good or bad. We are asking a better question: what does the word wasp really mean in science, and why did this group become one of the most adaptable and successful insect lineages on Earth? To understand wasps clearly, we need to start with classification. Most wasps belong to the narrow-waisted suborder Apocrita. If you look closely, that narrow waist, the thin connection between thorax and abdomen, is one of their signature body plans. But not all insects that look wasp-like are in the same subgroup. Sawflies, for example, are in a different suborder called Symphida and are broad-waisted, even if their silhouette can fool the eye. This matters because everyday language and scientific language are often mismatched. In everyday speech, people group insects by behavior or fear level. Science groups them by ancestry and structure. So wasp is partly a practical term, not a perfectly clean evolutionary unit. That is why you will hear entomologists describe wasps as a grade rather than a single natural clade. In simple terms, they share many traits, but the category includes ancestors that also gave rise to bees and ants, so the edges of the word are historically complicated. Now let's examine the famous weapon, the sting. Not every wasp has one in the way most people imagine, and this detail reveals how evolution repurposes anatomy. Female wasps carry an ovipositor, originally an egg-laying structure. In many groups, especially within Aculeata, that ovipositor became modified into a sting. So a sting is not an entirely new invention, it is a transformed reproductive tool adapted for defense, hunting, or both. This is why stinging behavior and egg-laying biology are connected in wasps more than many viewers realize. In social species, stings are often used for colony defense. In solitary hunters, stings can immobilize prey that will feed larvae later. That dual role makes the sting an ecological tool, not just a threat to humans. Even species that rarely interact with people can have highly specialized venom systems tuned for specific prey. Seen this way, the sting is less about aggression and more about evolutionary efficiency. The wasps most people know best are social species like yellowjackets and hornets, many of them in the family Vespidae. Social colonies are complex systems. A reproductive queen lays eggs, while workers, usually non-reproductive females, build nests, gather food, defend the colony, and care for brood. At first glance this can look like sacrifice, but evolution explains it through genetic payoffs and colony-level survival advantages. A coordinated colony can exploit food sources rapidly, defend itself aggressively, and raise large numbers of offspring over a season. Nest architecture, temperature regulation, and labor division give these species resilience that solitary lifestyles do not always provide. But sociality also carries costs. Disease can spread faster in dense colonies, and high visibility can attract predators and human conflict. Social wasps are therefore a strategic package, balancing cooperation, risk, and resource efficiency. They are not chaotic swarms by default, they are organized societies shaped by selection pressures over millions of years. A key driver behind eusocial behavior in Hymenoptera is haplodiploid sex determination. This sounds technical, but the core idea is straightforward. In many wasps, unfertilized eggs become males and fertilized eggs become females. Because of this system, sisters can share an unusually high proportion of genes, often more than they would with their own offspring under some conditions. That genetic structure can make helping raise sisters an effective evolutionary strategy. It does not force eusociality by itself, but it can tilt the math in favor of cooperative brood care, especially when ecological conditions also reward group living. Importantly, this is not a moral system and not a perfect rule. Biology works through probabilities and context. Some lineages become highly social, others remain solitary, and many show intermediate or flexible social patterns. But haplodiploidy helps explain why advanced eusociality appears repeatedly in this order and why wasps became such a central case study in evolutionary biology. Even with the fame of yellowjackets and hornets, most wasp species are not social at all. They are solitary. A solitary female typically mates, finds or prepares a nesting site, secures food for offspring, lays eggs, and then leaves each brood cell to develop without a worker caste. That means every female is effectively a full one-insect operation: hunter, architect, and parent. Solitary life creates very different selection pressures from colony life. There is no central nest to defend as a superorganism, but there is also no worker support and no collective buffering if conditions turn bad. Many solitary species solve this with extreme specialization. Some target very specific prey types, nest substrates, or seasonal windows. Their behavior can look quiet compared to social wasps, yet ecologically it is just as important. In many habitats, these solitary species are constant regulators of other insect populations, reducing outbreaks that could otherwise destabilize plant communities and food webs. One of the most powerful and misunderstood wasp strategies is parasitoidism. A parasitoid wasp lays eggs on or inside another insect host, and the developing larva eventually kills that host. This is different from typical parasitism, where the host is usually kept alive longer term. Parasitoid wasps can target hosts at almost any life stage: egg, larva, pupa, or adult, depending on species. That flexibility makes them extraordinarily effective population regulators. From an agricultural perspective, this is a major ecological service. Many solitary wasps parasitize or prey on insects considered crop pests, including species that attack vegetables and commercial plants. In practical terms, wasps can function as biological pest control agents that reduce reliance on chemical interventions. They are not a total replacement for all crop protection methods, but they are a foundational part of integrated pest management in many systems. So the same insect group feared at picnics also helps protect food production behind the scenes. Wasps are not only predators and parasitoids. Many also contribute to pollination, though they are often overshadowed by bees in public discussions. Pollination by wasps may be less specialized or less commercially emphasized in many contexts, but ecologically it still matters. Wasp visitation can support plant reproduction in habitats where pollinator networks are diverse and seasonal roles shift. At the same time, some wasps use a different tactic entirely: kleptoparasitism. Cuckoo wasps, for example, lay eggs in the nests of other wasps, effectively outsourcing parental investment. These strategies reveal that wasps are not one behavioral template; they occupy many ecological roles, from hunters to pollinators to exploiters of other nest systems. That diversity is part of why wasps persisted through major environmental changes. A lineage with many life history options can survive disruptions better than one locked into a single ecological niche. Wasps are a case study in evolutionary portfolio diversification. Their timeline is also impressive. The wasp lineage appears in the fossil record by the Jurassic, and by the Cretaceous it had already diversified into many superfamilies with descendants that still exist today. That span covers enormous planetary change, shifting climates, changing plant communities, and turnover in insect faunas. To remain successful across that scale, a group must repeatedly adapt, radiate, and reconfigure ecological roles. Wasps did exactly that. Today they occur across most of the world, absent only from polar extremes where conditions are too severe. Their modern diversity reaches into tens of thousands of described species, and likely more remain undescribed. This is the opposite of a marginal lineage. Wasps are globally distributed evolutionary winners. They are small in body size but massive in ecological footprint, influencing predator-prey balances, plant-insect interactions, and community dynamics across forests, fields, and urban landscapes. Size variation among wasps shows just how flexible this lineage is. On one end are large social species such as the Asian giant hornet, which can reach around 5 centimeters in length and understandably commands attention. Large solitary species like tarantula hawks and giant scoliid wasps are also iconic, built for overpowering formidable prey. On the opposite end are parasitoid wasps in families like Mammaridae, including some of the smallest insects known, with body lengths measured in fractions of a millimeter. At that scale, biology enters a different physical world where airflow, movement, and sensory constraints differ radically from larger insects. Yet both giants and microwasps sit within the broader wasp spectrum. This size range reflects not random variation but repeated adaptation to different ecological jobs. Large body plans can support robust predation and defense. Tiny body plans can exploit hidden hosts and microhabitats inaccessible to larger species. Evolution kept both because both work. Human culture has long projected meaning onto wasps, often emphasizing danger, irritability, or militaristic imagery. In classical literature, wasps appear as social symbols. In later fiction, they become amplified into monstrous forms, like giant stinging threats. Even military naming conventions borrowed the wasp identity for ships and equipment, tapping into associations of speed, aggression, and striking power. These cultural patterns are understandable, because painful stings create strong memory. But they also flatten reality. Most wasp diversity has little to do with human confrontation. Many species are inconspicuous, solitary, and ecologically beneficial. Public perception tends to be shaped by a few highly visible interactions in late summer around food and human spaces. Science asks us to widen the frame. The question is not whether stings hurt, they do. The deeper question is whether fear-based narratives hide the ecological architecture that wasps help maintain. In many environments, the answer is yes. So what should we take away from the full wasp story? First, wasps are not a simple villain category. They are a vast evolutionary continuum that includes social engineers, solitary hunters, pollinators, kleptoparasites, and parasitoids. Second, their biology links anatomy, genetics, and behavior in elegant ways. The ovipositor to sting transition, haplodiploid kin structures, and diverse reproductive strategies all show how flexible evolution can be with one basic body plan. Third, ecosystems and agriculture benefit from wasp activity far more than popular discourse admits, especially through natural suppression of pest populations. Finally, classification itself matters. The fact that bees and ants emerged from wasp ancestors reminds us that nature does not organize itself around our emotional categories. If we want a clearer relationship with the living world, we need to replace shorthand labels with structure, history, and function. Wasps are not just insects we avoid. They are a blueprint for adaptive success across deep time. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.